Okay, see here, in the topic of assessment procedure, check the status. Returns we have done, inquiry we have done, next theory is assessment. Okay, now we'll start the theory of assessment. Now this summary of the chapter you can also view from here. See, I had given the summary of the chapter in a different manner. See here. Even this is a summary of the topic. Our topic is in 4 parts. I said returns, inquiry, assessment, other sections. So everything can be seen except other sections. So returns, inquiry, and then assessment. Only thing is this summary, it is in a flowchart manner, okay? And this summary is better because you need to understand the flow. So first returns are filed, then income tax department does inquiry. Now next step is what? Assessment. Now what is assessment? Assessment means basically on a piece of paper, the assessing officer will compute our income and compute our tax. And in case you have paid less, he will demand. And in case you have paid more, he will refund. So when assessing officer computes our income on a piece of paper, that is called assessment is done. But for that simple computation, he has to put lot of efforts. First he has to do inquiry, which although it is not necessary, but in case it does inquiry, so it involves a process. So first he has to do inquiry and then he comes to know what is your real income. And after knowing the real income, on a piece of paper he will compute your income. And that piece of paper is called assessment order. Okay. So this is a general meaning of what is assessment. Now, this assessment can be done either in timely manner or belated. What do you mean by timely assessment? What is the time for finishing the assessment? Within 12 months from the end of assessment year. So if during the assessment year or after the assessment year within 12 months, if the assessment is done, then it is called timely assessment. But then as I said, practically it is not possible to assess each and every assessee in timely manner. Sometimes income tax authority, they do belated assessment. But when they do belated assessment, it is subject to certain conditions. But what are those conditions we'll be discussing later. But whatever, there is something called belated assessment also, which we call it as income escaping assessment. But this theory will come at a later stage. Right now let us understand how timely assessment is done. Now within timely assessment also, can you see there are 3 things? Summary assessment, regular assessment, best judgment assessment. So first I am starting with summary assessment. Okay, now see, in summary assessment first I will explain what is summary assessment and then procedure of summary assessment. Define what you have to learn. What is summary assessment and procedure means how summary assessment is done. So firstly, what is summary assessment? It is an assessment without any inquiry. It is an assessment without any inquiry. As the name says, summary. Summary means what? When do we use the word summary? Summary means it is in short. And when I am explaining something in detail and at the end when I give the summary, so summary means what? It is something in short. So summary assessment is that only. Summary assessment means assessment done in short without any detailed inquiry. And you know nowadays what income tax department does? Everyone who files a return, his return will be subject to a summary assessment first. What is that? How does it actually take place? I'll tell you. But every return is subject to summary assessment first and then selected people are taken for detailed inquiry and scrutiny. But that selection is a later thing. First, by default, anyone who has filed a return, his return will be subject to a summary assessment. Means there is something which they will do in short. But if they feel no, this assessee has to be inquired in depth, in detail, then they will take such assessee in scrutiny. But that is a later thing. But irrespective of whether they do the scrutiny or not, by default every person return will be subject to a summary assessment. But how this summary assessment takes place, that I will explain after some time. But right now what I am explaining, what is summary assessment? So what is summary assessment? It is an assessment done in short without any detailed inquiry. Without any detailed investigation, the assessment is done in so short. Actually, this summary assessment is not done manually. Summary assessment is not done manually. It is done through a software. It is done through an income tax software which is there in Bangalore. In Bangalore, there is something called CPC. Have you heard about CPC? Centralized Processing Center. And why it is called centralized? Because every person across India, if he files a return, it will be processed in a centralized location, Bangalore. And it is called centralized processing. Why it is called processing? Because the return filed by you will be processed in a computer software. That's why it's called your return is being processed. And that processing of return is nothing but summary assessment. You know what is the alternative name for summary assessment? Processing of returns. There are some people who call it as return is being processed. You can also say my case is taken up for summary assessment. And taken up what? Every assessor's case goes in summary assessment first. Means every assessor return will be first processed in Bangalore. And how that processing is done, that is what the big theory is about now, which is going to come now. But right now I am just explaining what is summary assessment. So let me repeat. Summary assessment means summary assessment means assessment done without any inquiry. It is done in short, without any in-depth inquiry. And it is done manually or through software. It is done through a software. It is done in a computer software. And it is done where? In our local income tax department or Bangalore. Bangalore, see, whether we stay in Mumbai, Delhi, Kolkata, anywhere, our return will go to Bangalore and it will be centrally processed over there. But now, how this processing happens, how this summary assessment is done, this I will explain now. See, while starting this section, what did I say? I had to explain two things. What is summary assessment and how summary assessment done. So what wala part I have explained. Now next is how summary assessment is done. So see here. Imagine an assessee has filed a return. Look at this. An assessee has filed the return and he has shown some income in the return and tax. See, return is a detailed form, but just to have a glance of broadly how a return is, every return has some computed income and computed tax. So whatever income or tax you disclose in the return, that return will be entered in a software, and in the software there are 5 adjustments which will automatically happen. What did I say? Your return will go into a software, and inside this software there are 5 adjustments which will automatically happen. Automatically means manually a human being doesn't have to do anything. It is done in computerized manner. Means the computer software is trained in such a way that that software is able to do some auto corrections in the return filed by you. And you know, because of this software, you know, income tax department is able to get so much revenue. Otherwise, you know, when this software was not there in older days, when we were students, this software was not there. So you know what income tax department used to do? Everyone who files the return, they used to accept the return as it is. But now what they do? They just don't blindly accept your return. What they say, we will process your return in this software. And because of that automatic adjustment, which I said, there are 5 adjustments I said, na? And because of those 5 automatic adjustments, many assesses tax liability increases. And because of that increase in tax liability, government is able to generate huge revenue thanks to this software. Although they have spent huge amount on this software, they have made the software in such a way that software knows everything about income tax law. See, as you know, computer software is expert in mathematics. But apart from the mathematical accuracy, the software also has taxation accuracy. Means the software is built in such a way that it knows everything about income tax law. So in case there is some wrong thing in your return, wrong as compared to the income tax law, the software will make automatic changes. And because of automatic changes, that's what I said right now, okay, your tax liability increases and little bit tax also increases. It is a good revenue for the government. But this is thanks to the software. But when we were student, you know what we were taught? Summary assessment means file the return, they will acknowledge, and that time they used to acknowledge physically. Means I remember in my articleship days, I used to physically travel to Bandra, to income tax office. One whole day used to go in that only. Means I have to physically go to Bandra, I have to stand in the queue of filing the return, that physical return in my hand, and once I submit to the income tax clerk over there, he used to put a stamp on that acknowledgement, and that stamping of the return itself was summary assessment. Means we used to say summary assessment is done. Now let's see whether scrutiny comes or not. But that was the method of summary assessment. When once you submit the return, once they put their income tax stamp, summary assessment is over. But nowadays it doesn't happen like that. Firstly, nowadays we don't physically file the return. Our return is uploaded online, and once it goes online, it directly enters the software. And in this software there are some adjustments. Some means precisely 5 adjustments are done. And to remember those 5 adjustments, I have made a keyword. How to pronounce this keyword? A lady. You can imagine as if it's a lady. Lady. But the spelling is not literally that of lady. How do you spell it? Lay and D. Don't call it LED. You will not like that. It will be a lady. So this is the pronunciation of the keyword. And can you see there are 5 points? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And these are the 5 corrections which automatically happen in the software. See, idea of summary assessment is what you know, that practically each and every case cannot be inquired into depth. So what they think, at least let's process the return of each and every person filing the return, so that little bit tax also we can generate. It is a good revenue for the government. And then out of lakhs of people filing the return, they will select few people for scrutiny. Scrutiny means in-depth assessment, but that will be few people. But irrespective of those few people, everyone's return will be first subject to that processing in the software. Okay, now let's understand what happens inside the software. Okay, see, first alphabet is A. A for arithmetical errors. Means if in your return there are some arithmetical mistakes, means some mathematical mistakes, addition mistake, subtraction mistake, so that will be auto corrected. It will be auto corrected. And imagine, just because of arithmetical mistake also, sometimes someone's tax increases by 500 or 1000 rupees, and one person's tax increases by 500 or 1000. This way there are so many people filing the return, so that arithmetical correction will be done. So that is A. Another A is correction of apparent incorrect claims. What do you mean by apparent incorrect claims? You know this, what is incorrect claim, but then what is apparent? Apparent incorrect claims means something you claimed wrong and it is obvious, it is not debatable. The word apparent means it is very obvious and not debatable. For example, if I am doubting on you that you didn't study, but see, whether you studied or not, it is a debatable matter. Because I don't sit with you 24/7. I meet you only for 3 hours. But rest of the day, whether you study or not, it's a debatable matter. And if I say, no, you don't study, I know you don't study, but you can argue, no, I study. So these things are debatable. But apparent means what? Which is not debatable. For example, in income tax, there is something called standard deduction in house property. In house property, what is the amount of standard deduction you can claim? 30%. So if someone has claimed in the return 40% standard deduction, Imagine someone has claimed in the return 40% standard deduction. So tell me 40% standard deduction under the head income from house property is a correct claim or incorrect claim? Incorrect claim. And is it arguable? It is obvious. It is obvious. So these are apparent incorrect claims. So apparent means there is no scope of argument. Means here can anyone argue? No, there is standard deduction of 40%. How can you say 30%? If a person argues also, he is a fool. We should tell him, please study the income tax law. Read the income tax act. When income tax act says standard deduction is 30%, so it's 30%. You cannot argue. So the things which we cannot argue is called apparent. It is obvious on the face of it. And see, you have to understand, software is doing these corrections, and software cannot argue with every person filing the return. What software can do is, which is very obvious, because in summary assessment they don't talk to the assessee. Means imagine your return is processed in a software, and does software communicate with you? Tell me the truth, are you lying or you are honest? Software cannot communicate. So obviously when software is doing something, it can do something which is very obvious, which cannot be argued. Otherwise, if software does something which can be argued, it will create havoc in India. People will say, what, this software is nonsense, it is doing anything. So software can obviously do the things which are unarguable, which are very obvious, and they are called apparent. So what did I say? What was the second alphabet? A. Apparent. Apparent means on the face of it you can make out, where there is no scope of argument and debate. So apparent incorrect claims. Okay, one example I gave of income from house property standard deduction. One more example. Under section 80C. This is one famous section which every student knows. 80C, by investing in certain places you get deduction of how much? 1,50,000. So 1,50,000 is such a popular limit. Now if assessee claims in the return deduction of 2 lakhs, and he thinks, no, I have invested so much, so when I invested 2 lakhs, I want deduction of 2 lakhs. So there are people who might claim deduction of 2 lakhs under 80C. But then tell me, this 2 lakhs deduction, is it correct or incorrect? So look at the screen, what I am highlighting, it is incorrect. And claiming deduction in 80C is a claim, but it is incorrect claim. And is there any scope of argument? No, 2 lakhs is correct. What 2 lakhs is correct? When the Income Tax Act has prescribed a limit of 1,50,000, so it is but obvious that 2 lakhs is wrong. So something which is but obvious is called apparent incorrect claims. Similarly, on long-term capital gains, you know, what is the rate of tax? Long-term capital gains, general long-term capital gains subject to 20% tax. And if someone says, no, I will pay tax of 5% on long-term capital gains, although it sounds very funny, but someone is saying 5%, then we have to make him understand, Baba, on long-term capital is 20% only. So paying 5% is wrong, and it is obviously wrong. Means he is claiming that it should be taxed at 5%. Means something which is wrong on the part of the assessee, and it is wrong, it's not arguable, it is obvious. So these corrections will be done by software. Means imagine, software is so much trained. He knows about ATC. He knows about standard deduction in house property. These are the two silly examples which are used so that you can easily remember. But there is such a big income tax law. The entire income tax law is feeded in this software, and software knows everything about Income Tax Act. And wherever he finds something is inconsistent as compared to the law, he will make the correction in the return. Who? The software. So what was first? A, arithmetical errors. Other was apparent incorrect claims. See, best way to remember is what you know. In the first A, the software has made mathematical errors ka correction. And in the second A, taxation errors. Mathematical mistakes, taxation mistake. Obviously, in the second example, the mistake which I said, house property, instead of 30%, he took 40%. They were mathematical mistake or taxation mistakes. Taxation mistakes. So, software knows maths, but the software also knows tax. So, when it makes mathematical correction, it is the first alphabet A. And when it makes taxation correction, it is apparent incorrect claims. And what is this add or less? Means in the income shown in the return, this is being added or deducted. And see, it's not necessary that it will be added, it can be deducted also. For example, a person has claimed standard deduction of 10% under the head income from house property. Did you listen what I said? Under the head income from house property, he has claimed 10% standard deduction. Or maybe he forgot to claim standard deduction. So even this is incorrect. Although income tax department likes this. Because if someone is not claiming the deduction, he will pay more tax. But then income tax department's software is not selfish. The software is neutral. If assessee has done some mistake which is making harm to him, it will correct such mistakes also. So whether the mistake is affecting the department or assessee, software will not see this. Software doesn't have brain and mind like us, that we feel, no, I will work for him, I will not work for that. It is a machine. So that machine will work in the favor of assessee also. So that means if an assessee forgot to claim standard deduction in income from house property, software will provide you. And when software provides you, it is minus. That's what I wanted to explain. Why did I start this point? I wanted to explain it is possible to plus also and minus also. So I gave example of minus. See, earlier the example was of assessee took standard deduction of 40%. So when you take excessive deduction, so that excess deduction has to be added back. But when you don't take deduction, it has to be provided. So in short, it can be add also, less also. But that addition or deduction is done in what? In the income shown in the return. So what was first A? Arithmetical mistakes. What was second A? Apparent incorrect claims. Now see, third alphabet is L. L for brought forward losses claimed in the return in respect of a past year, the return of which was not filed on time. Feel what I said, then I will explain. I will repeat. What did I say? Brought forward losses. Feel the sentence. Brought forward losses claimed in the return in respect of a past year, the return of which was not filed on time. That means, imagine, right now I have filed a return of say previous year 23-24. Imagine a person has filed a return of previous year 23-24, and in previous year 23-24 he has adjusted some loss. Adjusted means he has claimed a set off of loss, and this loss is not current year's loss. This is a brought forward loss. You didn't listen what I said. I said brought forward. So imagine this loss is a brought forward, and it was brought forward from the year 1920. Assume in my example the loss pertained to 1920, and you know what happened in 1920? The return of 1920 was belated, and as you know, the year in which you suffer the loss, return has to be timely. It should be filed timely. But what I am saying right now, the loss pertained to 1920 and the return of 1920 was belated. So when the return of a particular year is belated, you are not allowed to carry forward the loss, but still this assessee has deducted and adjusted the loss. So this software can make out. And you know how software is able to catch this mistake? Because in the software, date of filing return is saved. In the software of income tax department, the date of filing return is saved. So in my example, I am saying that return of which year was late? 1920. So when 1920 return was filed, whatever was the date, that date is still saved in the software. Till today software can see. Means software is so smart. As you know, computer is very smart. It is so smart that it can identify that 1920 return was late. So it was late. It was late. So how dare this assessee bring that loss forward and adjust in the current year? So if you have done that, he will add back. Who will add back? Software. Software will add back the loss. Why I am saying add back? Because when you set off the loss, you adjust some income. So whatever loss you have deducted from your current year's income, it will be added back. So tell me, and see, software is able to do all this. See, one by one. First adjustment, why software is able to do? Because it is arithmetical error. And computer by nature, it is an expert in maths. Computer can never make mathematical mistake. So for maths, you can be so confident about the software. And then what was the second thing? Apparent incorrect claim. Yes, for this the software is customized in such a manner that it knows everything about income tax law. So it can catch the inconsistency in your return compared to the income tax law. Then L, losses. This adjustment software is able to do because everyone who files the return, his date of return is saved in this software, and it can track that this return was late. So if that return was late, how can you bring forward that loss and adjust it? So in case you adjust it, it will add back. See, you should know how to speak the provision also. So speak and say, what was this L? Adjustment of brought forward loss claimed in the return in respect of a past year, the return of which was not filed on time. Repeat, I know everything. You should know to by heart these things. Adjustment of brought forward loss claimed in the return. Claimed in the return means this is the current year's return. So adjustment of brought forward loss claimed in the return in respect of a past year. Means in my example 1920, the return of which was not filed on time. What shocking is the return was not filed on time. So how can you bring forward the loss and nicely set off? So if you set it off, we'll add it back. So this was L. Then next, come on. E stands for expenses claimed in the return but disallowed as per audit report. Think what is the meaning of this? Expenses claimed in the return. Come on. Expenses claimed in the return but disallowed as per audit report. You know, audit report means, I mean to say 3CD. Have you done audit? In audit, we have to furnish a form called 3CD. And in 3CD, we have to submit lot of particulars. Many times we have to submit particulars of cash payment, payment to relatives, expenses where TDS are not deducted. These things are reported in form 3CD at the time of tax audit. You know that? So see, imagine it was my return and I had made many cash payments. And you know there is one rule. Any payment exceeding 10,000 in cash, it is not allowed. This is the rule of income from business. There is one section 40A3. 40A3 states that any payment exceeding 10,000 should not be made by cash. This you heard also, na? Anyways, I will teach also in the topic income from business. So remember that rule and think now. Imagine I have made lot of cash payments and every payment was about 10,000. So, and that payment I have made by cash. Then you know, ideally such cash payments I cannot claim as an expenditure in my net profit computation. See, what is the income of a businessman? Net profit. So, honestly speaking, in my net profit, I should ignore the cash expenditure. But what people think, let it be, who knows? How government will know whether I made the payment in cash or check? How will they come to know? So thinking that what people do, they calculate the net profit considering the cash payments also as an expenditure. See, net profit, we say net profit. Net means net after deducting the expenses. And you know what blunder I did? Although the expenditure was in cash, still I deducted it, thinking that government will not come to know. But the software is very smart. How software can show smartness here? I might have claimed cash expenditure in my return. But you know, when you file the return, you also have to submit the audit report. So in this software, your return is also there and audit report is also there. Imagine these two things. In this software, your return is also there and even audit report is there. And you know, in audit report, precisely 3CD forms, there are details of cash payment. So in case I have made some cash payment, the details of which will be there in form 3CD. So software can track that. You know what software will do? It will check. There are some cash payments in form 3CD, but this guy has filed a return based on just the net profit without adding back the cash payment. You know what software is expecting? In your net profit, you should have added back the cash payment. See, add back, you know why? Because in accounts, we have to show all the expenditure. Na? So even if the expenditure was in cash, in your accounting, you have to book all expense. To book it. But when you file the return, it is your duty to add back the cash payments in your net profit. But that thing was missing in your return. So software started getting beep, beep, beep. Imagine software is working like this. There is a beep sound coming, beep, beep, beep. And why that beep sound is coming? Because it is finding something wrong. What wrong? On one hand, the tax audit report has details of lot of cash payments. On the other hand, in your return, the net profit is simply net without add back of cash payments. So that inconsistency software is not able to tolerate. So what software will do? It will say, okay Baba, you have shown the net profit as it is. We will add back all your cash payments in the net profit. So this is also auto correction. You know what I am explaining today? What adjustments take place in the software in automatic manner? What are the auto corrections done in your return? So this way I have completed 4 points. So this was E. So how will you frame this point of E? Expenses claimed in the return. See, claimed in the return means you have shown your net profit after netting off the cash expenses also. So that means you have claimed in the return, but it is disallowed as per audit report. But see, cash payment was just one example. Huh? This way you know that form 3CD has reporting of other things also, like if a payment is made without deducting TDS, so ideally a chartered accountant who makes the report, he has to report that information also, that there are certain payments on which TDS was not there. So you know, when TDS is not there, the expenditure is disallowed. So what law expects? That assessee, when he files the return, on his own he should disallow the expense without TDS. And on his own doing means what? In your net profit, you should voluntarily In your net profit, you should voluntarily add back such expenses which are without deducting TDS. Means actually when you don't deduct TDS, only 30% of the expenditure is disallowed. This I will explain at length in the topic income from business. But right now just remember as a rule that only 30% of your expense will be disallowed if TDS is not deducted. So what law expects? That since you know that you have made payments to different parties without deducting TDS, you should have voluntarily added back 30% of such expenses in your net profit. Means they expect that you should voluntarily add in your net profit. But if you don't do that, they can come to know by the audit report. But audit report cannot reveal everything. Because in audit report, everything is not reported. There are only few things like cash payments, TDS not deducted, payment to relative, and stock valuation, etc. There are only few things reported in audit report 3CD. So at least those things software can check. Means actually it will match your audit report and return. And if it finds any mismatch, it will do the correction. So this was E. Now last alphabet C. C means C. The last alphabet is D. D for deductions under section 80 IA to 80 RRB and 10 AA. These deductions, if you want, you should file the return on time. But there are people, what they do, even though they have filed the return late, still they nicely claim these deductions. So in such case, software comes to know. So whenever a person has filed a belated return, and if the software notices, what it notices? That in spite of your belated return, how dare you claim, what was that? Deduction under section 80 IA to 80 RRB and 10 AA. So how dare you claim that? So if you have claimed, software will add back. And how software came to know that your return was belated? Date of filing the return is saved in the software. So in case my return is late, even by 1 day, the precise date is saved in the software. So software automatically comes to know that your return is belated. So it will check that also. But entire chapter 6A is not subject to timely filing. It is only 80 IA to 80 RRB timely filing is must. And even 10 AA. You know what is 10 AA? It is a special deduction for exporters. It is for exporters. What is it exactly we'll be studying later. Right now my target is not to explain what is 80 IA, what is 80 IB, what is 10 AA. Whatever these are some deductions. Exactly what they are, will study at a proper time. Right now you just understand one thing, to claim these deductions. Which deductions? 80 IA to 80 RRB and 10 AA. To claim this deduction, you should file the return on time. But still, you have claimed the deduction in spite of the fact that you have filed a belated return, then software will add back those deductions. But this is the return of the current year only which is belated. Means sometimes back the point of loss was there, adjustment of brought for loss. Their software discovered that the return of that old year was belated. Because for setting of the brought for loss, it is a brought for loss of some past year. No? So past year's returns was timely or belated, that was to be checked by the software. But for 80 IA to 80 RRB, this deduction you claimed in the current year. So your current year return only should be on time. And if it is belated and still you claim those deductions, software will add back. Actually speaking, these all things are added back only. Only in the first two alphabet, add or less, anything is possible. Settle and think, what did I say? only in the first two alphabets plus or minus anything is possible. But in the last three alphabets, only add back. Why? What was L? Brought for loss. Now tell me, if brought for loss was wrongly claimed, so it was deducted by you. So if something wrongly deducted by you, it has to be added back only. Then what was E? Expenses wrongly claimed. So expenses wrongly claimed was originally deducted by the assessee. So correction is by adding back only. And even this D was deductions wrongly claimed. So deduction is also deduction. To rectify that, it has to be added back. But in arithmetical corrections, arithmetically sometimes you have made a mistake which had reduced your income, and sometimes your mistake has increased your income. So depending upon the type of arithmetical mistake, we decide add or less. But add less anything is possible. Even for the apparent incorrect claim, as I said, some people forget standard deduction in house property. So if you have forgotten, they have to provide you. And when they provide you deduction, it is minus. And if you have taken excessively, they have to add back. Means I mean to say, in the first two alphabets, add or less, anything is possible. But in the last 3 points, it is always add back. Now I want you literally memorize these 5 points. And I want you to speak the exact sentence of the law. And see, every sentence starts with adjustment of. Start one by one. Don't look at the notes right now. What was first alphabet A? Adjustment of arithmetical errors. Second point, adjustments of apparent incorrect claims. Then adjustment of brought for loss claimed in the return in respect of a past year, the return of which was not filed on time. Repeat this point. Adjustment of brought for loss claimed in the return in respect of a past year, the return of which was not filed on time. Then E, adjustment of expenses claimed in the return. See, this means you're deducted, minus sign. Understand my feelings, okay? Adjustment of expenses claimed in the return, but disallowed as per audit report. So such claimed expenses will be added back to your net profit. Then last alphabet D, adjustment of deduction under section 80 IA to 80 RRB and 10 AA claimed in the return, but the return is filed on, but the return is not filed on time. But the return is not filed on time. It was like that, okay? And did you notice in my sentences, in last 3 sentences, I have been commonly using the words claimed in the return. Notice the words to by heart the words, okay? So repeat just once and then it's over. Start. Adjustment of arithmetical errors. Adjustment of apparent incorrect claims. Adjustment of brought for loss claimed in the return in respect of a past year, the return of which was not filed on time. Adjustment of expenses claimed in the return but disallowed as per audit report. Adjustment of deduction under section 80 IA to 80 RRB claimed in the return, but the return is not filed on time. Now tell me, when software makes this correction, it is obvious that your income will increase. Imagine there was everything like add only. So imagine there are so many things added in your income will increase and your tax will increase. So assessee is affected, na? So he should be given an opportunity of being heard. Means software does not have the authority to directly make the adjustments. You know what software will do? It will identify the adjustments and it will not directly do the adjustment. It will first inform the assessee via email. Means imagine you are the assessee and I am the software and I am planning to make all AD adjustments in your return. Imagine you are assessee, I am the software and I am planning to make all AD adjustments in your return. So before I actually make the adjustment, I have to inform you. Means software will send you an email and that email will state what you know. Dear assessee, in your return, you have claimed some brought for loss of previous year 1920 and as per our record, your return of 1920 was belated. So dear assessee, the loss which you have nicely set off, we are planning to add back. Do you want to say something? Say within 30 days only. Fixed 30 days time will be given. By heart this 30 days. 30 days, 30 days, 30 days. You will be given a defined time of 30 days. Means within maximum 30 days you have to reply. Basically, what is the purpose of sending you this email, you know? What is the purpose of sending you email? Because sometimes the software might have some misunderstanding. Software can also go wrong. Imagine a case when software shows your return was late. In fact, your return was on time. There is some error in the software. Software is also not a god. After all, it's a machine. Although we understand software will have least errors, but it can have some error also. So imagine the software was under the impression that your return was late. In fact, your return was not late. It is possible or not? First, believe it is possible, otherwise I cannot proceed ahead. It is possible that software is showing that your return is late, but in fact, assessee thinks it was not late, yeah, it was on time. So it is necessary to first inform the assessee, otherwise software alone thinks that your return was late, it's wrong that you adjusted the brought for loss, we will add back, it's wrong, na? So it is the duty of income tax department to inform the assessee first. 99% software will be right. 99.9% software will be right. But even if 1% or 0.1% software is wrong, so that's why software has to first inform the assessee so that we get no objection from the assessee. So tell me what will happen? Software will send an email to the assessee and in the email what will they write? They will write about the proposed adjustment. Why did I say proposed? They haven't made the adjustment yet. You know, software will first identify all AD adjustments. But before they actually do plus or minus, they will inform you. And in the email, you will be informed about the proposed correction. For example, I said they are proposing to add back your brought forward losses. So they will inform about that only. And what they expect from you, in case you feel that software is wrong, please reply. So now just imagine software is wrong. Software was thinking that your return of that past year was belated, but in fact it was on time. So what assessee should do? Tell me what assessee should do. You should know what assessee should do, because in future you are going to guide your assessee as a chartered accountant. So tell me what assessee should do. He should reply. He should reply within maximum 30 days, because after 30 days your reply will be invalid. So within 30 days is a sufficient time. You just have to write a mail. What mail you have to write? Okay, dear CPC. What is CPC? Centralized Processing Center. That there is some mistake in your system. Actually had filed the return of that year on time. And that timely returns proof you have to attach. You know, whenever you file the return, you have the proof of the date of filing. So that proof you have to attach in that email. Means this is reply email. So when you reply in the email, you have to first write that there is some mistake in your system. Actually, I had filed the return on time. So proof of that has been attached. So just submit a mail to the CPC. CPC means Centralized Processing Center. And after considering the mail, the software will realize, oh, we had a mistake in our system only. So it's better we don't add back the losses now. But you know, there are very less chances of that. As I said, 99% software will be correct only. Because after all, it's a computer. And computer has got very less chances of mistake. Means in terms of mathematical accuracy, computer is always the best and 100% flawless. But for mathematical things. But this is about, you know, date of filing the return saved in the software. So sometimes software might have got hanged, etc. Whatever. There are problems with software also, you know. Hanging, corrupt, etc. So because of that, there can be some misunderstanding. So that misunderstanding has to be sorted out. So tell me, what was the last explanation I gave? Whenever there are some lady adjustments in your return, the software will not directly make the adjustment. It will first inform you by sending you email, and in that email they will tell you about what they are planning to add, and whatever they are planning to add, they will write a letter about that, and they will ask you to reply to that mail within 30 days. And if within 30 days you don't reply, then software will think we are right only. Whatever we are doing, we are right only. So let us add back what we planned. Then they will immediately do the correction. But they have to literally wait patiently for 30 days. How do you count 30 days? The date when assessee gets the email, that day you have to ignore. See, whenever you count the number of days, the counting starts from the next day. So the date of email you skip, after that 30 days. So that means if I am software, I will nicely wait for 30 days, and once 30 days are over, and if I feel there is no reply, then I will proceed with the adjustments. So this formality is must. Now, imagine this formality is done. What formality? Informing the assessee, and assessee replies also in 30 days, or he doesn't reply, they will directly proceed. So this informing formality is done. Now after this, imagine the income shown in the return may increase or it may decrease also. 99% there will be increase only. So after increase, assume in my example, your new tax liability is 14,000. What was the original tax liability shown in the return? I am not telling you, whatever it was. But after making the adjustments of lady, there was change in the tax liability. That is why, see what I have written. Can you see the words adjusted? Why did I use the word adjusted? See, here I have written the word income and tax. But here I have written adjusted income and adjusted tax. Adjusted because there has been some adjustments made in the name of lady. So your income will change, your tax will change. Now you know, after this revised tax liability is determined, what software will do? Software knows to do comparison also. It will compare this 14,000 with how much you have actually paid. Now imagine assessee has actually paid only 12,000. What is this 12,000? The amount actually paid as tax by the assessee. So now what software will do? It will compare. What it will compare? The adjusted tax of 14,000 after lady adjustment. This figure will be compared with amount actually paid. And assuming the paid amount is 12,000. So what software will realize? You have paid only 12,000. So there is shortfall of 2,000. They will demand that 2,000. How will they demand? They are not going to give you a call. They will send one official letter which is called intimation under section 143(1). Means you will receive on your email one formal letter which is called intimation under section 143(1). And in that intimation, they will clearly mention this was the income shown by you, and this is the adjustment done by us. And now the income is like this, and your tax is like this, but you have paid only 12,000. So you have to pay 2,000 more. So please pay. So that demand intimation will be received by the assessee, and that intimation is called intimation under section 143(1). This is a very famous intimation. Every student who has done a proper articleship in some little bit of tax department also, he is aware of this thing, that usually assessee, after he files the return, he gets an intimation under section 143(1). And it is not necessary that always there will be a demand. In my example, there was demand. Now I'll change the example. Look at this. Assessee's tax liability is 14,000, but he has actually paid, say, 17,000. Means he has paid more. Why does he pay more? He might not have paid voluntarily. Sometimes TDS is deducted. In TDS, sometimes there is excess deduction of TDS. So although his tax liability is only 14,000, but still he has got TDS claim of 17,000. And TDS means that much tax you have paid. You have not literally paid, but it was deducted by the party. So in case you have paid 17,000, then you will get refund of 3,000. So that refund intimation is also called intimation under section 143(1). Even that will be intimated to the assessee. And that intimation is so transparent. It will mention everything, that this was shown by you, this adjustment we have done, and accordingly your tax has changed. Now you have paid this much, so you have to either pay or you will get the refund. And sometimes, look, what a coincidence, that your tax is 14,000, you have paid, and you have paid exactly 14,000. Then there is no demand, no refund. But still people get intimation in these cases. Usually they should not send intimation when there is neither demand or refund. But still sometimes it is machine operated. Na? In the Bangalore, software is working mechanically. So sometimes neither you have to pay something, nor you will get any refund. Your liability is zero, but still you might get intimation. But it's okay, welcome that intimation. Getting that intimation is a sign of your summary assessment is done. But you should not be happy, yes, my assessment is done without any inquiry. Summary assessment is as good as no assessment. It is mere processing of returns. You should not feel happy when you get intimation under section 143(1). Even after receiving that intimation, your case might be selected for scrutiny. You know what income tax department do? By default, every return will be processed and intimation will be sent. Then you should not feel, wow, I have got intimation. You know why the feeling of wow in intimation? This 143(1) gives you wow, because in 143(1) they are not doing any detailed inquiry. So there always is a wow factor in this. Okay, wow, 143(1) summary assessment. People love this because there is no inquiry in this, na? But then you should not feel happy and relaxed that my 143(1) is done. Now they cannot do anything. They can still do scrutiny, because summary assessment is as good as no assessment. It is mere processing of your returns. So see, last what I had explained, I have written here. Look at this example, same thing, repeat, look. In my example, what was 14,000? What was 14,000? Adjusted tax after adjustments of R-Lady. Now this 14,000 is compared with actual tax paid. Now if your tax paid is 10,000, look at 10,000 first. Then you have paid less, there will be demand of 4,000. And if you have paid 16,000, you have paid more, you will get refund of 2,000. And if you have paid exactly 14,000, then there is no demand, no refund. But whatever, whether there is demand or refund, you will get an intimation under section 143(1). Okay. You know what did I explain? The process of summary assessment. At the beginning of this section, remember what did I say? A student has to learn two things. What is summary assessment and the procedure? Means how summary assessment is done. So I explained both the things. So repeat fast. What is summary assessment? It's an assessment without any inquiry. It is mere processing of your return. It is as good as no assessment. There is no detailed inquiry. It is done manually or software. Means it is done manually or through software. It's done through software. It is done mechanically through a machine. Okay, this was what is summary assessment. And then how it is done. To explain the how in short. First, your return enters into a software, and then there are some R-lady adjustments, and after the adjustments are identified, the software will intimate you that we are planning to make this adjustment. If you want to speak something, speak within 30 days. And after considering the reply of the assessee, the software will proceed and make the adjustments of R-lady. And after the adjustment is done, it will compare the revised tax liability with what you actually paid. If you have paid less, they will demand. If you have paid more, they will refund. And in case you have paid exactly the same, no demand, no refund. But this demand and refund is done by sending intimation. You know, you have to precisely use the word intimation only under this section. Words are very important in this chapter. You cannot casually use any word. You know, many students, instead of the word intimation, sometimes they write the word notice. And where notice has to be written, they write the word direction. You cannot use any word anywhere. Be specific with the word. So in this theory, what will you write? Assessee will be given an intimation. Because see, after this, the next assessment which I do, you know, after this there is something called regular assessment, best judgment assessment. There I am not going to use the word intimation. There I will use the word assessment order. That time you will realize, oh, the words are important. In summary assessment, we cannot use the word assessment order. We have to use the word intimation. See, this cannot be said as order. See, order means it is something very authentic. But this is not authentic. Summary assessment is just time pass. It is done by software at its own level without any detailed inquiry. You know, assessee might have done so many blunders. He might have literally hidden income of crores. Can software find out the hidden income? See, software can identify whatever you have shown in the return, it can just see the mismatches. But in case you have crores of income not shown only, how software will come to know? That only God will know. A human being or a software will never know if you have not shown only some income. So that means this assessment is just a time pass. There are many blunders, many tax evasions which software is not able to catch. So basically what I was saying, you know, this assessment is just time pass. It is not that authentic. That is why we cannot use the word order. My explanation started from there. I was justifying the students that in other assessment which we'll study in coming lectures, we will use the word assessment order. Because those assessments are authentic and subject to detailed inquiry. And then we can say it's an order. But here it would be wrong to use the word order. But yes, some word we have to use, so we say intimation. Means what department is saying, we are sending you an intimation, means we are intimating you that you have to pay this much, so please pay. Or we are intimating you that you are going to get refund, so you will get refund. So it's an intimation, okay? So this was the procedure of summary assessment. Okay, now see here. Right now, what did I say? After this entire process is over, either you will be sent an intimation demanding some amount from you, or you will be sent an intimation granting some refund to you. But that intimation should be sent within a particular time. So that time limit I will explain now. So what I am explaining next is, what is the time limit for sending intimation under section 143(1). What does this intimation say? It either says that you have to pay something or you will be given a refund. For example, I got some intimation right now 2 days back in my email, and there was a refund. I had claimed the refund and they have granted the refund. And see, for every return, they don't wait for 30 days. See, right now, what did I say? That whenever they are proposing to make already adjustment, they will first inform you and they will give you a time of 30 days. But see, that 30 days time has to given only to those assessees in whose case there is already adjustments. But in my example, when I had filed the return, there was no already adjustment. I filed the return, I got the intimation also refund. Means what I mean to say, in case of every assessee, it is not necessary to have already adjustment. Most of the assessees return, there is no adjustment only. Means you file the return and you immediately get the intimation within 10-15 days. But if there is some already adjustments proposed in your return, then they will first inform you, then they will wait for 30 days, and then your return will be processed and intimation will be sent. Means just a casual thing I mean to say, that it's not necessary that every returns will be subject to already adjustment and they will have to wait for 30 days. The case is, means the point is, sometimes you file the return, within 5 days you get the intimation. It happened in my case. Immediately I got the intimation. Okay. But that intimation has got a maximum time during which it can be sent. And you know what is the maximum time during which intimation should be sent? 9 months. Within 9 months that intimation has to be sent, maximum to maximum within 9 months. And that 9 months you have to count from end of the year in which assessee filed the return. It depends upon when did you file the return. Whenever you file the return, not from that date, from the end of that year. For example, I filed a return on 4th of August. So 4th of August is the date of filing the return. So that 9 months is not counted from the date. It is counted from end of the year. So continue this example. Imagine I have filed a return on 4th of August. So when can I get the intimation? From 4th of August till the end of that year. End of any financial year is 31st March. So means the year in which on 4th of August I filed a return, till the end of that year means till 31st March I can get the intimation, and even after the end of the year there are 9 more months. Means in the form of drawing, imagine 4th August I filed my return. So tell me, when can I get the intimation? Look at this drawing. Either I can get the intimation in this period. This period means end of the year, that is 31st March. And after that you have to take additionally 9 months. So during this period, Income Tax Department has to send intimation. I mean, this is a deadline. And you know, such time limits are to be kept. Why? So that people working in Income Tax Department, they should also be disciplined and time driven. Because after all, they are also human being. So their law wants to control every human being, whether it is general public or the IT department. See, general public are public, but even IT department has got human being like us only. So they should also be disciplined in their work. So this 9 months ka rule is actually dictating the department. The department, whoever is sitting in the department in the CPC, whoever is sitting in the department in, what is CPC? Centralized Processing Center. Where is that CPC? Bangalore. Whoever is sitting in CPC at Bangalore it is his duty to see to that intimation should be sent to the assessee within 9 months from the end of the year in which return is filed. See, when I say from the end of the year, doesn't mean that after the end of the year you get the intimation. The year in which you filed the return, that year so you can get the intimation. In fact, when I file the return, within 2 days also I can get the intimation. Means after you file the return, till the end of that year, and after the end of the year, more 9 months. Within this period, intimation should be sent. See, look at this. Try this example now. First, I want to show you this drawing also. You know, this is a drawing which we have seen in childhood. When you were in school, you were taught computer for the first time. You know what was the drawing of the computer? Input, processing, output. Remember that? So that similar drawing I have drawn here. See, this is input, this is processing, and this is output. So are you getting that feeling? So see, this is the software, and in this software, what is the input? Return. Means return is put inside the software. So return filed by us is the input for the software. So the input for this software is a return filed by the assessee. And what happens inside the software? Lady. This happens inside the software. So this is called processing. That's it. That is why Bangalore is called centralized processing center, because a return is being processed in this software. And processed means precisely it is continuously checking lady corrections. Who is checking? Software. And that lady corrections ka process is called processing. And that's happening inside the software. See, lady. And once the software does the processing, what is the output? A printout is generated. But nowadays there is no need to generate a physical printout. That printout, instead of a physical printout, an email will be generated and sent to the assessee. What did I say? Instead of a physical printout, earlier it used to happen like this only, when there was no culture of email, online culture was not that strong. So earlier what they used to do? They had the software that time also. They used to generate a printout, and that printout was sent to everyone's residence by way of speed post. But nowadays they don't physically send the intimation. That printout kind of thing is generated in the form of email, and that email goes to your residence, and that is the output of the software, and that output is called intimation. Nothing new. Same thing I want you to visualize in the form of a drawing. Okay, now the main thing which I was discussing was within what time this intimation should be sent. We were discussing about the time limit. So tell me, what is the time limit for sending the intimation? 9 months. But 9 months from, look at the drawing, from the end of the year in which return is filed. You know why this 9 month is linked with the date of return? Why this 9 months is linked with the date of return? Means why it is linked with the date of return? Because return is the input which after being processed becomes an intimation. Return is the input which after processing becomes an output of intimation. So obviously intimation is connected with your return. That's why the law says that intimation should be sent within 9 months from, don't say from the date of the return, from end of the year in which return is filed. You know why law is not saying from the date of the return? Law says what? 9 months from the end of the year. Why are we not saying 9 months from the date of the return? Because see, if 9 months would have been from the date of the return, it will come some odd date. Because every person's return filing date is awkward. Some people file return on 3rd August, some people file on 14th May. So date can be any date, and counting 9 months from a particular date, there will be lot of variables. And basically, what IT department want, that 9 months cutoff should be one standard date. Because depending upon your date of return, if 9 months is counted, it becomes difficult to remember the dates. Imagine I am an employee working in income tax department. When I have to do work of so many assessee, different people filing return on different dates. And if I count the 9 months, see, I am an employee, I have to respect that 9 months. Being an employee of IT department, I have to respect that 9 months or not. And if that 9 months ka counting is from date of the return, so imagine I have to handle with lakhs of assessee, and every assessee has a different date. So how will I remember that 9 months? And employees have to remember the date. This you know better because you are also an employee in a CA firm. How you have remembered the dates of 30th September, 31st July? You can nicely remember because it is a standard date. And how you become tied up in your work schedule when the due date comes. Similarly, IT department employees also have to work as per the due dates. But that due date will be standardized when? If the 9 months is counted from end of the year. Because end of any year is 31st March. End of year means 31st March. And from 31st March, if you count 9 months, count. After 31st March, count April, May, June, July, August, September, October, November, December. So 31st December will become a uniform date for sending intimation to every damn person who has filed a return. Usually you file a return on a particular year only. Now whether you filed a return on 3rd September, 4th August, 5th June, any date, that year will end on 31st March. And from 31st March, if we count 9 months, the cutoff comes to a standard date, that is 31st December. So now because of 31st December, if I am an employee in income tax department, when 31st December is near, I'll be on my toes. That I have to finish the work because 31st December is coming. So I'll be respecting that due date accordingly. Means imagine I am working in CPC, Centralized Process Center. So as soon as 31st December is coming near, I'll be on my toes because it is a date by which I have to send intimation to so many people. But that 31st December is a standard date. Why? Because the counting was done from the end of the year. If law would have said no, don't count 9 months from end of the year, count from the exact date. Now exact date of so many people is different. Basically I am justifying what? Why 9 months is counted from end of the year. And this explanation is necessary because every time I come up with some time limit, you will notice it is always from the end of the year. And not now, but at least after some day you will have a doubt. Okay, why all the time limits are like this only? Sometimes 9 months, sometimes 6 months, sometimes 12 months, but it's always from the end of the year. So you will get a doubt at a later date. What doubt? Okay, why are we not counting from the exact date? So that's what I explained right now, that counting from exact date creates a problem in remembering the date for the income tax employees. So for remembering, it is always better to count the time from the end of the year. So 9 months, now it is, it is 31st December. So if I am also employee, I can remember 31st December. Yes, 31st December means I have to finish the work of sending intimation. Means I cannot delay that because law has given that deadline. Okay, now tell me. So repeat the time limit once again. Intimation should be sent within 9 months from end of the year in which return is filed. Although we count from the end of the year, but intimation can be sent in the year of return also. Means, look at this. Tell me if someone has filed a return on this date. Let me write only with proper pen. Look. If someone has filed a return on this date. So tell me by when I can get the intimation. Latest. First, look at the drawing properly. Huh? Is it possible I can get the intimation in this period? Yes, why not? See, for intimation, what's just needed is the return. As soon as your return is filed, intimation can come next day also. But obviously, if in your return there are some already adjustment, then processing doesn't happen so fast. Because for already adjustment, there is a formality of informing the assessee and waiting for him for 30 days. But that is for return subject to already adjustment. But that's what I said sometimes back. Every return is not subject to already adjustment. So after you file the return, it is possible that within 2 days also you can get intimation. So in short, see, look at the screen. It is possible to get intimation during this period. Then, even after this period, see, end of the year. Did you see the end of the year is March? From the end of the year, there are 9 more months. So, this portion, during this period, anytime I can expect intimation. But see, this is a maximum time. Usually, nowadays, people get intimation within one month, 2 months. You file the return, within a couple of months, you will get the intimation. But law has to set the cutoff. Okay, latest by when? By when? By, actually it's 31st December only. In my example, in the drawing which I have drawn, by 31st December 2025. It was 25 CE. So in my example, by 31st December 2025, a person should receive the intimation. Now if a doubt comes, what if I don't receive the intimation? It's okay, don't bother. If you don't receive any intimation, that means whatever return you have filed, it is accepted on summary basis. On summary basis. But after summary assessment, if they want to dig into the inquiry, if they want to conduct a scrutiny, that they can do. But in the form of summary, if you are not getting an intimation, then whatever return you have filed, it is deemed to be summarily assessed. It is not possible that literally you should get intimation only. Many people don't get intimation. For example, 2-3 years, since last 2-3 years, I am not getting any intimation only. But that's okay. Usually they also send intimation to people who have to pay something or to people who are granted some refund. But many times you don't get intimation. So don't start bothering. It's okay. In absence of any intimation, your return is deemed to be accepted summarily. But it is summarily accepted. Later on, if they want to conduct some scrutiny, they can do. So time limit is 9 months. You know, a doubt usually comes here. When I say 9 months is from the end of the year in which return is filed, you know what the student says? Sir, why are you saying 9 months from the end of the year in which return is filed? Why can't you say 9 months from the end of assessment year? You know, if I say 9 months from the end of assessment year, it is technically wrong. Tell me why it is wrong to say 9 months from the end of assessment year. Before that, one more, before that, one more doubt. You will say, sir, why 9 months? In preceding lecture, you said something like 12 months. See this, in preceding lectures, I have stated about this 12 months now. So see, don't mix up this 12 months which I have been saying since last 2-3 lectures. You know what that 12 months is? That is a deadline for completing a proper scrutiny assessment. If income tax authority wants to drill you, they want to scrutinize you, they want to do detailed investigation, then the deadline is 12 months from the end of assessment year. But right now, am I discussing the theory of drilling the assessee, scrutinizing the assessee? Right now, we are talking about processing of return in a software at Bangalore. For that, the time limit is 9 months. So, firstly, don't start thinking some days back, sir had told us it is 12 months. Now, suddenly, why this 9 months has started? Don't mix up. These are two different things. First, believe these are two different things, otherwise, I cannot proceed ahead. What was the 12 months which I have been saying since last 2-3 lectures? That is a 12 months for doing a proper assessment with a detailed investigation and inquiry. But right now, am I discussing a theory of a detailed investigation scrutiny wala assessment? Right now, I am discussing a summary assessment wherein your return is processed in a computer software. That processing should be done within 9 months. So don't mix up. So coming back to my question was, why can't we say 9 months from the end of AY? And why the law says 9 months from end of the year return is filed? This is important, otherwise in the exam you will start writing that only. 9 months from the end of AY. You cannot write anything you want. You have to write what it is actually. So how 9 months is from the end of AY? No, it's from the end of return filing year. No, revising the return has to be done up to 31st December only of the. Correct. See, if law would have said 9 months from the end of AY, so saying it from the end of AY would be wrong. You know why? Because sometimes in the AY, a person has not filed a return only. If return is only not filed, how the processing will happen? Intimation is the outcome of processing, and processing is of return. So imagine a person didn't file the return in AY. So tell me, if someone has not filed only the return in AY, so in absence of return, what will be processed? Processing is of return. So if someone has not filed the return, how will processing takes place? And it is possible that you have filed a return, look, on this date. It is possible that a person has filed a return even after AY. Means, look at the drawing. It's possible that I have filed a return on this date. The date which I have highlighted on the screen. First, do you agree it is possible to file the return on this date? Voluntarily, it is not possible. Voluntarily, if you want to file the return, you have to file it latest up to 31st December of the AY. Voluntarily, if you want to file, then latest you have to file 31st December of the AY. Means in AY only you have to file, but that is voluntarily. But sometimes you don't voluntarily file the return, then assessing officer has to ask you to file the return. And assessing officer, when he demands the return, he can demand return even after AY. That's what I had explained in the last lecture. See, I have the proof of explanation. I told you that if you voluntarily file, you have to file latest up to 31st of December, and that comes in the AY only. So voluntarily filed returns will always be there in AY. But what about demanded return? What about demanded return? Demanded return can even go after AY. After AY. So imagine in my example, look at the screen now. Someone had filed a return on this date, means a year after AY. Then return only has come so late. the processing will start late, intimation will also come late. So tell me in this example when intimation should come? During this period up to the end of this year, and after that again 9 months. That's why law has not said 9 months from the end of AY. This explanation came out of which thought? That why law has not said 9 months from the end of AY? Because if law says from the end of AY, and if there is no return only in the AY, so what will be processed? Because intimation is the outcome of processing of return. So return has to be there. Return is the underlying necessity. Without return, there cannot be intimation. The drawing itself proves return is the input and then intimation is the output. So you have to see when the return was input. So return can be input in AY also, and return can be input after AY also. Yes, obviously, if I have filed voluntarily, then I don't have a choice but to file the return in AY only. But that's not always the case. Sometimes you don't voluntarily file. You are asked by the department to file the return. And department can even ask you to file the return in this period. So people filing return in this period, their intimation will be delayed accordingly. So see, it's better I put it in the drawing only. See, imagine I had filed a return on this date. But I hope you understand, voluntarily filing on this date is not allowed. Voluntarily filing on this date is not allowed. So if I say I have filed a return, that is implied that it was in response to notice under section 142(1) RAI notice. So when I say return was filed on this date, it is assumed that it was in response to notice under section 142(1). So now tell me, when can I get intimation? Imagine first I would have got notice to submit the return, RAI notice 142(1), and then look, on this day I had filed a return. So after I file the return, when will I get intimation? So let me draw and show. In this period, agreed? In this period I can get till the end of that year, and even after the end of the year, there are 9 more months. During this period, anytime I can get intimation. You know, when assessing officer demands under 142(1) to file the return, even that return will go for processing first. Whereas you know, when assessing officer is demanding the return, that is a sign of what? He will not just sit silent with the return. He is going to further drill you in scrutiny. But even if scrutiny happens at our local IT department, that Bangalore people will process the return. You didn't understand what was my explanation here. See, many students ask me the doubt, sir, when assessing officer has demanded the return, that means assessing officer is up to definitely something. He is definitely planning to scrutinize me and drill me and investigate me. Otherwise, why would he bother to send me a notice asking me to file the return? So when the AO has asked me to file the return, definitely AO is planning to scrutinize me. So let him scrutinize. That scrutiny happens in our local IT department. We people stay in Mumbai. What is our local IT department? Mumbai, Bandra, BKC. Bandra, Kurla complex. Our IT department is in Mumbai. It is there in Churchgate also. It is at various locations. But whatever, that scrutiny activity is done by our local IT department. But that processing is done by Bangalore centralized people. So even if assessing officer has planned a scrutiny in my case, he is planning to first send and ask me to file the return. He might be planning many more things. Let him plan his own way. But Bangalore people, what they do, every return they will process. Whether you voluntarily filed, whether it was demanded, every return will be processed. And especially the return which is demanded is usually demanded in this period. And even that return has to be processed, but the processing will start little later because the demand notice has come later, my filing got little bit later, so processing also will be done little later. To see in my drawing, it would be better if I write the word or. Means what? What do you mean by either or? When I say either or means what? Wait. Either someone files a return in AY, or someone files a return after AY. So depending upon when you file the return, the period of 9 months is reckoned. Reckoned means it is calculated, it is counted. So depending upon which financial year you had filed the return, the 9 months will be counted. In short, all this started from where students casually write in exam that intimation should be sent within 9 months from the end of AY. You will get 0. Don't even dare to write that 9 months from the end of AY. What will you write? 9 months from the end of the year. Year means it is always financial year. In income tax, we talk about financial year in April to March. So, 9 months from the end of the year in which return was filed. Now, return may be filed in AY also, even after AY. So, depending upon when return is filed, 9 months will be counted. And it is logical because it is a return only which is being processed and an intimation is generated within 9 months. Last thing, then this section is over. Last thing. Try this example. I'll ask you what to try. First, observe this example. In this example, I am assuming someone has filed the return. What do you mean by R? R for return. So imagine someone has filed a return on this date. Okay, it was before the due date, but right now I am not so particular about before the due date, after due date. I could have taken an example of after the due date also. So don't get serious with the date. Just take an example that someone has filed a return and after the return he discovered some mistake. After the return he discovered some mistake. Oh shit, there was a mistake in my return. So he is planning to revise the return. Whenever you discover a mistake in the return, what do? You want to revise the return. Huh? So now you want to revise the return. But by the time he revised the return, he received an intimation. Our software at Bangalore, it runs fast. We people nicely sit idle. We keep thinking, I will revise the return, I will revise. Why so hurry? I've got the time till 31st of December to revise the return. Why so hurry? So we people get lazy many times. But the software runs so fast that once I file the return, I can get the intimation immediately. But the problem is what? I wanted to revise the return. And lazily, I haven't revised the return. And my original return where there was mistake, it got processed and I received the intimation also. Now what to do? Now can I revise the return? See, my question was what? Is it possible to revise the return after you receive the intimation? This is the main question. And this can come in exam. Is it possible to revise the return after receiving the intimation? But first, do you agree it is possible, it can happen? Because see, you are planning to revise the return, but we people are such that we keep planning and we keep delaying also. But once I file my original return where there was mistake, it is possible that within couple of days, maybe within 5 days only, I can get intimation from Bangalore. But now, I am worried now, how should I revise the return? So is it possible to revise the return? So see, whenever a question of revise return comes, you should know the theory of that. Let us use the theory of revised return. See, I'll show you. I have taught the theory of revised return. Look. What is the rule for revising the return? Just use the rule as it is. You will be able to answer my question. What is the rule for revising the return? A return can be revised up to 31st December or before completion of assessment, whichever is earlier. Means 31st December should be there with us. Or what is the other limit? Assessment should not be completed. Then you can revise the return. But after 31st December is gone or after the assessment is completed, you cannot revise the return. That you agree? So try this now. Yes. So here the question is, intimation has been received. So can you revise the return? You know in exam what they will say? Intimation is received means your summary assessment is done. Summary assessment is done means assessment is completed. And there is a rule that you can revise the return either up to 31st December or completion of assessment which is earlier. And here there is completion of assessment. Which assessment? Summary assessment. Intimation, look at the screen. Intimation is a sign of summary assessment. So when someone receives intimation, it is a sign of what? Your summary assessment is done. Come on, wake up. Wake up. When someone receives intimation, it is a sign of what? Your summary assessment is completed. And we have heard that after the assessment is completed, you cannot revise the return. That's what the law says, na? Either 31st December or completion of assessment which is earlier. So here what is the obstacle for me? Completion of assessment. So considering the fact that my assessment is completed, I should not be allowed to revise the return. I can revise. I can revise the return because summary assessment is as good as no assessment. The spelling of summary assessment has the word assessment. But in fact, it is not an assessment only. It is mere processing of your returns. So you should not count summary assessment as an assessment at the first place. So when you receive intimation, you should not think, oh God, my assessment is done. No, don't worry. Your assessment is not done. You know, when should you say that your assessment is completed? When it is a proper regular assessment with detailed inquiry and scrutiny. This was not a detailed inquiry, scrutiny based assessment. It was an assessment done in short. In fact, it should not be called as assessment only. Even God knows why the law has written the word summary assessment. They should change the heading of section 143.1 and they should simply call it as processing of return. This is misleading because when they say it is summary assessment, we feel it is assessment and teacher like us have to hammer. No, Baba, it is not an assessment. It says assessment, but it is as good as no assessment. How much we have to hammer? Actually, the law itself should be using the word processing of return. They should remove the word assessment from the spelling. But whatever, we cannot change the law. We have to accept it. But now at least you have learned the provision that summary assessment is as good as no assessment. That means conclusion. Even after receiving the intimation, I have got right to revise my return, but obviously 31st December should not have passed. So let me assume 31st, see in my drawing if you see 31st December is here. Look at the drawing, 31st December is still It is yet to come. 31st December is yet to come. That means I have got possibility to revise the return. See, what is the obstacle in revising return? Either the 31st December has come or assessment is completed, which is earlier. That is the obstacle. So see, in my example, 31st December is not an obstacle, because at the time when I received the intimation, 31st December is yet to come. And even that other obstacle of assessment is completed, even that obstacle is not an obstacle for me, because receiving intimation is summary assessment, and summary assessment is as good as no assessment. So in short, I can revise the return. But see, if it would not have been a summary assessment, a proper scrutiny based assessment was done. How scrutiny based assessment done, that I have to yet explain you. But whatever, you can imagine, if a proper scrutiny based assessment is done, after that it is not allowed to revise the return, because that is a proper assessment. Which one? Scrutiny assessment. Anyway, scrutiny assessment is our next theory. But if scrutiny would have taken place and then after the assessment is finished, you are not allowed to revise the return. But for summary assessment, you don't worry. See, in this case, what will happen? I had filed one return, I got intimation. I will revise the return, I will get intimation again. If I want to revise again, I will revise again, I will get intimation again. You revise n number of times, you will get intimation n number of times. Software doesn't get tired. The software at Bangalore will not complain. What, you are revising the return again and again, I have to process again and again. It will never complain. Means you file the return 10 times, revise it 10 times. The software will process each time. And every time you submit the return, it will send intimation. But obviously people are not mad to revise the return 10 times. But what I mean to say, I hope you understand my feeling. You file the return n number of times, the software will not stop processing. Every time you submit the return, the machine is machine, it works like machine. You file the return, it will process. File the return, process. It will not even compare. Earlier your return was like this, now why like this? Computer doesn't have brains. It's a machine. So every time you file the return, it will be processed and sent, and you will be sent an intimation. Conclusion, what is the moral of the story? A return can be revised even after receiving the intimation. And this is very important knowledge, because this you will find in day-to-day life. Many times you will find the clients of your CA where you are doing the articleship, they face this problem. I don't know whether you have come across this or not, but this is a very common complaint of many assessee. Assessee keep complaining that I have filed a return, I wanted to revise, but I received intimation, now what to do? So what will you answer to such client? It's okay, you received the intimation, let it be, throw it in the dustbin. You file a new return, you still have the time to file the return till 31st of December. I am assuming 31st of December is yet to come. So you can advise your client, you still have the time to revise the return. Revise the return, and after your revised return is submitted, you will get a revised intimation. So don't worry, till 31st December you can nicely revise the return, even if you received the intimation already. Over. This was the last. See here, what was the message? Summary assessment is as good as no assessment. It is mere processing of returns. This dialogue you may have to write in paper. The question which I asked you, if it comes in exam, your reasoning should be like this only. Even if this assessee has received the intimation, still he can. How will you answer this kind of question? You have to write, even if the assessee has received the intimation, he can still revise the return, because summary assessment is as good as no assessment. It is mere processing of return. So as long as the 31st December of the AY is yet to come, the assessee can revise the return. But tell me, what if it was like this? Look, like this. Wait. What if it was like this? The intimation was received after. You are not understanding what I am trying to say. Intimation was received after 31st December. Look at 31st December. Then what? Then it is not possible to revise the return, because max to max you can revise the return up to 31st of December. So see, when I say even after receiving the intimation you can revise the return, that is assuming 31st December is still there. It is yet to come. But after 31st December, if you receive intimation, that is impossible to revise the return, because maximum to maximum you can revise up to 31st of December. So this intimation you will have to accept as it is. That means if it is demanding some tax from you, you have to pay. You cannot say, why will I demand? I wanted to revise the return. So it's a mistake. You should have revised up to 31st December, and till 31st December you don't revise, then there is no scope. But still, still if someone says, no, I am not happy with the intimation, I wanted to revise the return, this is a bad intimation. There is still one remedy under section 154, which is a future section. I am just talking casually, don't take it so deeply right now. But just when I am talking about a scenario like this, where a person is crying for what? I received the intimation, it is bad, I wanted to revise. So see, as far as I wanted to revise, law says sorry, because 31st December is gone. But still if assessee is crying, no, it is a bad intimation, I cannot tolerate this, so still he has got remedy. Although he has not having the remedy of revising the return, but he has got one remedy called section 154, which I will explain at a later date. In short, if you receive the intimation before 31st December, then you can easily revise the return and get a revised intimation. But after 31st December, if you are not happy with the intimation, then revising the return is not the scope. But there is something called 154, although which we will study at a later date, but at least you should have the knowledge that there is some remedy left with the assessee. So let me put it back to my original example. In my original example, I received the intimation before 31st of December. So in my example, I can revise. So see, let me write here. I can revise means see, revise, and I am putting a tick mark here. This tick mark indicates I can revise. Okay. Wait, this is going beyond 31st December. Let me shift here. It should not be beyond 31st December. So finally section 143(1) summary assessment is done. Now look at this flow chart. Okay, see, one doubt usually a student gets in summary assessment, they get mixed up with that 30 days wala point and this intimation. So see, let me make it clear. In total, there were 2 communication with the assessee. First communication was done when, when the software was planning to make already adjustment, the assessee was sent an email. But that email, don't call it as intimation. The word intimation, which I am hammering repeatedly right now, that is the final intimation of demand and refund. But when they communicate about, do you have any objection that if we make already adjustment, that opportunity of being heard, email. That email is just a casual email. The purpose of that email is what? so that assessee should not feel bad. How can they directly make already adjustment? I give one example. Sometimes a software can have a misunderstanding that your return was late, but in fact your return was not late. It was a timely return. So some misunderstanding can come up. So to sort out that misunderstanding, there was one communication. That was when software was planning to make already adjustment. But after that communication is done, after waiting for the 30 days, the final communication is called intimation. So the word intimation you will write for what? Not when you are talking about the 30 days. In the 30 days wala provision, you know what you have to write? Before making already adjustment, the IT department shall inform the assessee, giving him a time of 30 days to reply. And after considering the reply of the assessee, and in absence of no reply, after 30 days his return will be processed. And after processing, a final document comes which is called intimation. So in short, what I was analyzing, that in all there are two communications. One, a preliminary communication, that is when they are planning to make already adjustment, and that also is only in cases of those assessee where already adjustments are there. 99% assessees case there is nothing like a lady doesn't come, a lady, there is nothing like a lady, means lady doesn't come in 99% cases. But in 1% cases also, if there are some proposed already adjustment, so for that there is first communication giving him a time of 30 days, and after that process is over, then comes a final intimation or demand or refund. And for that the time limit was within 9 months, that intimation has to be sent to the assessee. 9 months from end of the year in which return is filed. So finally summary assessment is done. Now look. If you check the status, what is the status now? We finished the theory of returns. Then we finished the theory of inquiry. Now this assessment procedure is going on. In this we finished summary assessment. Don't forget the section. In this chapter, sections are most important. So what was the section of summary assessment? 143.1. Now next theory is regular assessment. Now, even in regular assessment, you know what will be my method of teaching? First, what is regular assessment? Then, how regular assessment is done? What and how? The same way in which I explained summary assessment. How did I explain summary assessment? What is summary assessment and how it takes place? So even in regular assessment, we have to study in the same manner. What is regular assessment and how it takes place? So answer, what is regular assessment? It is an assessment with detailed inquiry, with detailed scrutiny. That is why regular assessment is popularly known as scrutiny assessment. So what is the meaning? Regular assessment is an assessment with inquiry. Here they are not going to blindly accept your return. In return you might have hidden so many incomes. So they are not going to blindly accept. It is not summary. Summary accepts everything blindly. In summary, max to max, they do only 5 adjustments already. But when it comes to regular assessment, they will do deep inquiry. They will find out everything. What is the truth and where you have done the tax evasion. So this is an assessment with inquiry. And you know why it is called regular assessment? Tell me why the law has used the word regular. Why the word regular? Means what does the word regular suggest? Regular. You should understand that word also. Just as in summary, I made you feel the word summary. Summary means something in short. So what is the meaning of the word regular? Regular means proper. The word regular suggests here it's a proper way of doing the assessment. And you only tell me, what should be the proper way of doing the assessment? Without inquiry or with inquiry? With inquiry. Although as assessee we also don't want that inquiry should be conducted on us. But think from law's point of view, think from government's point of view. From government point of view, a proper assessment is an assessment where inquiry is done. And once assessment is done properly, we call it a regular. Regular means it's not irregular. What is irregular? Summary assessment. Summary assessment is unsystematic, improper, irregular. Opposite of that is regular. And actually it is exactly opposite. In summary, where we are least bothered to see whether assessee had hidden the income or not. Because see, someone has hidden the income or not, software cannot identify. Summary assessment is software driven. So there we are not doing inquiry. And not doing inquiry, actually it is unsystematic. It is not a proper way if you think from government's point of view. So the proper way of doing the assessment is with inquiry. And since assessment is done in a proper manner, it is done in a regular manner. Regular means it is done the way it should be. Regular means the assessment is done in the way it should be. And it should be done in a way of inquiry. That's why the word regular comes. In short, I was explaining and justifying the word regular. But it's okay. In the office of CA, they don't use the word regular assessment. Popular word is scrutiny assessment. So this theory is also called as scrutiny assessment. Tell me how I am going to explain this theory in two parts. What is regular assessment and how? So what I explained, what? It is an assessment with inquiry. It is also known as scrutiny assessment. And it is the assessment how it should be. And when assessment is done in the manner how it should be done, it is done in a regular manner. That's why it's called regular assessment. Okay. Now next thing is how regular assessment is done. There are two steps. In regular assessment, there are two steps. Step 1, call the assessee in the office. Who will call? Assessing officer. Means imagine I am assessing officer. So first I will call the assessee in my office. How will I call? By giving him a phone call? No, I will have to send a notice under 143(2). I will send a notice under section 143(2). And in that notice, I will call the assessee in my office at a particular time, on a particular day. Step 1, call the assessee in the office. Step 1, call the assessee in the office. Step 1, call the assessee in the office. Second and final step, after discussion with the assessee, compute his income on a piece of paper and pass the assessment order. This is the short story of scrutiny assessment. There are only two steps. See, I have written here. Literally, there are two steps. Read. First, call the assessee in the office. How to call him? By giving him a phone call or by sending a message in WhatsApp. This is the way you call your friends. But here IT department is calling the assessee. They will have to give a formal notice. And that notice is called notice under section 143(2). So step 1 is send a notice under 143(2) inviting the assessee to your office. So that is step 1. Then read second step. After the assessee is called in the office, discuss with assessee. What discussion? That you have not shown this thing properly in the return. This is not proper. This income you have not shown only. This expenditure is wrong. This is right. This is wrong. This is written in my hand. What is in my hand? Return. So taking the return in his hand, assessing officer will have different questions. He will ask question, you have to answer. He will ask question, you have to answer. Means your return is being scrutinized. Imagine I have got returns copy in my hand. So based on returns, the assessing officer will have various questions to you. That you have taken this deduction, this is wrong. This is a capital expenditure. Capital expenditure cannot be deducted in a net profit. How come you deduct a capital expenditure? An assessee might argue, no, this is a revenue expenditure. No, it is a capital expenditure. This argument will start. What is this? Return, return. So from the return, the assessing officer will have various questions. Like one more question. You have received one subsidy. You didn't pay the tax. You received subsidy. You didn't pay the tax. Assessee might argue, no, subsidy is not taxable. Assessing officer will say, no, it is taxable. In short, what I mean to say, a discussion and argument will take place. Second step, discuss, interrogate, drill the assessee. Whatever question he wants to know, he will ask the assessee to answer. And after discussion, read, total income and tax will be computed on a piece of paper called assessment order. This is a short and sweet procedure of regular assessment. Although theory will not get over at this, there are some time limits, etc., which I am not touching now. I will be finishing in the next lecture. But broadly, the procedure is done. See, scrutiny assessment, the name is so big, but theory is very small. You also might have heard scrutiny, it is something dangerous, people are scared. So scrutiny assessment, the name is very dangerous, but the procedure is so simple to explain. Just 2 steps you have to remember. Step 1, see, you should visualize this drawing. Visualize this drawing. Step 1, the AO will call the assessee in the office. And you know, this drawing shows what? This is the office of assessing officer. And you know what this drawing represents? This is office table. AO is sitting in his cabin. AO is sitting in his cabin, and in front of his chair there is one table, office table. So imagine this is office table. And on one chair AO is sitting, and on the other chair assessee is sitting. I know you are not able to find a chair. It looks like they are standing. But imagine, my drawing is not 3D. It is 2 dimension. So here also you have to feel as if this is an office table. Office table. And imagine, on one place AO is sitting on one chair, and on the other hand or other side of the table assessee is sitting on the chair, and both are sitting and discussing. Can you see this? These are questions of AO. Feel this. These are questions of AO. And what is this? These are answers of assessee. And there will be hot argument. And after that argument, they will reach at one conclusion, and on one piece of paper, income will be computed, tax will be computed, and if assessee is paid something less, they will demand, and if assessee is paid excessively, you know why people pay excessively? You don't want to pay. Actually, your TDS gets deducted. TDS is such that randomly some party has deducted some TDS. So even if your tax liability is say 5,000, the TDS is 50,000 sometimes. So in such cases you get refund. Refund usually arises out of what? Because of excess TDS, or maybe you might have paid excessively advanced tax. There is something called advanced tax which I will discuss at a later stage. But right now what I mean to say, why refund comes? Refund doesn't come automatically. The reason for refund is either you have paid excessive advance tax or excess TDS is deducted by some party. But whatever, due to some reason, refund is possible. So if refund is there, you will get your refund. And there is nothing like refund, you have to pay something. So they will demand the tax. And this way regular assessment is completed. But yet in this I have to explain the time limits, because that time limit thing will become lengthy right now to finish it today itself. So I will have to wind up the lecture here only, keeping that time limit theory pending. Time limit for what? When to call the assessee in the office, then how long the discussion can go on, by when to pass the order. And did you notice I didn't use the word intimation here? It's called assessment order. So tell me, wait, let me sum up and go. Regular assessment I have started. Theory is in two parts. What is regular assessment? How does it take place? So what is regular assessment? It's an assessment with inquiry. It is an assessment. It is done in a manner the way it should be done. And since it is done in the way it should be done, it's done in a regular, systematic, proper manner. That's why it is called regular assessment. And it is popularly called as scrutiny assessment. So this is what is regular assessment. Then how does it take place? So how? There are two steps. Step 1, call the assessee in the office, make him sit in front of the AO, and then after discussion compute the income. But nowadays they don't call the assessee physically in the office because of faceless assessments. So you might get thought of, sir is talking about calling the assessee in the office face to face. See, face to face. But I have to heard that nowadays assessments are done faceless. That also I will teach. But to understand faceless, first you have to assessment face to face. Then how faceless assessment is done, when faceless assessment done, I will talk about that. This point also I have to touch. Why? Because students are doing articleship. They keep thinking what sir was explaining, that they are going to call the assessee, they will sit in front of each other face to face. But I have heard there is something called faceless. I know that. I will explain everything at a proper time. But right now this theory I am explaining that how face to face assessment takes place. Later I will also explain how faceless assessment takes place. But that is at a very later stage. Okay. So is regular assessment done? No, it's not done. I have to yet explain the time limit of this and this. Except the time limit part, the section is over. Okay. Bye. Revise and come. Please revise and come and take your homework and go. 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 In homework you have got question number 7 and question number 8. Only 2 questions are there for homework. Please do the homework and come. At this stage, if you do the homework, you will get confidence over whatever I taught you today. My questions are customized to my video lectures. Every video lecture has got customized question which you have to solve and which I am expecting you to solve in homework. Okay? Bye.